When you play the Game of Thrones, you
subscribe and like,
or you die. There is no middle ground.
Alright, hello YouTube, welcome back to the Grease Comms YouTube channel. Today's video, I want to tackle the subject of why do the Targaryens seem to go mad? Or why do they seem to just kind of lose their minds? If you think about the Targaryens, there's been a number of Targaryens so far that have seemed to go mad or kind of crazy, or they're just really cruel. If you think about a couple that come to mind, Aerys the Mad King, you have Aerion Brightflame, I talked about him, not last week, but the week before. There's people like Aegon V who don't appear mad, but he does questionable actions, right? Like the whole thing at Summerhall, what was that about? His brother Daeron the Drunken seems to be haunted with dreams. And now with House of the Dragon introducing something with like Helena having some of these visions and things like that, and Daemon as well, I guess. The question arises, why are the Targaryens going mad, right? Or why does it feel like some Targaryens are fine, normal people, and others kind of go up the deep end? And it is a loaded question because there is more than just what I'm going to talk about in today's video. I did a whole series, or basically I did at least like 3 or 4 parts of my Robert's Rebellion was just focused on Aerys the Mad King and why he becomes the person that he does. But I'm also going to reference some details from Dany's last chapter in A Game of Thrones, because everybody seems to think she is going mad and she herself questions her own sanity. And so that's going to be something I think is going to be interesting to explore, because we don't really see the first-hand account of what the Targaryens are going through outside of really like Daenerys. So we're going to talk about that. Before we get into the video, I did want to say thank you to my Patreons and members for supporting me on this channel. If you do want to become one, you do get videos early, and I do give you guys an exclusive video each week. But if you're interested in that, consider that. So let's take a look at what I was talking about with Daenerys. So Daenerys, by the time we get to her character at the very end of Book 1 of Game of Thrones, she is someone that has basically been getting dragon dreams and dreams about, waking the dragons and all of these things for a number of chapters, right? Every time Daenerys feels like she needs some sort of strength, she gets these dragon dreams. And those only grow more intense as the book goes on, to the point where her dreams are literally telling her that she needs to wake the dragons. And so you have that aspect of it. And Daenerys, after she finds out everything about what happened to Drogo and her child, she seems to almost become inhuman in the way that she thinks almost, right? The way people perceive her is like, she's gone crazy. And now part of it is like, okay, she's trying to defy an entire culture that these people have been born into. She's also saying that she's basically going to go into the funeral pyre of her husband. It seems like she's just gone completely off of the deep end and she's going to get herself killed. And that doesn't end up occurring. But the whole time, Daenerys herself questions her own sanity. I may have some quotes up as I'm talking about this that kind of support that, but that's something I really picked up on the last chapter of A Game of Thrones in my reread, is that she herself feels like she's going mad. So then let's apply that, right? Let's say that we go back to some of these other Targaryens, and they were seeming to also get these dragon dreams. That's what I think happened. Think about something like Aegon V. Was Aegon V getting dreams of the dragons being awoken? Was he getting all these things and visions to prompt you to try to bring the dragons back? And we know there's some other things along the side of that, right? Like Aegon felt like his reign and in the succession after him was pretty unstable. His children were very difficult to deal with. They didn't really do what Aegon wanted them to do. And that kind of pushed him towards, Summerhall. You also look at the Blackfire stuff going on at the time. It seemed like Aegon's rule wasn't the most stable. And so he was looking for the dragons to help stabilize their dynasty. And that pushes him to do Summerhall, which ends up being a huge tragedy for the Targaryens. And it almost continues their downfall and actually speeds it up, in my opinion. It's why I actually, in my Robert's Rebellion video, I actually started with Summerhall. And so I look at, some of these situations where Aegon V is not somebody that's viewed as like, oh, he went crazy or any of these things. But later in his life, he does seem to be haunted by maybe dragon dreams or something of that nature outside of just the desperation that he probably felt. Let's think about his brother, Aerion Brightflame. He is somebody that thought he could drink wildfire and that would turn him into a dragon. Again, this is all speculation. We don't know because we don't have enough, I think, from the Dunk and Egg Tales, and we don't have enough from Fire and Blood Part 2 to really figure out what was going on with Aerion. But my guess would be it was part of it was he was just a cruel kind of idiot, and that's kind of definitely shown in the Dunk and Egg novella. And also, I think he was someone that was also getting dragon dreams, right? Remember Aerys, the Mad King? He thought the same thing. He thought that he would become a dragon. I just don't think that that's a coincidence that multiple Targaryens thought these things. And the dragon dreams themselves, why do they come to the Targaryens? Is it because they're connected to the dragons by maybe some sort of blood or something? Or is it being placed there, right? Is Bloodraven possibly placing these dreams in the Targaryens, similar to kind of what's going on with Bran? Now, we don't know if Bloodraven's kind of in control of that, or maybe it's another entity, but either way, whichever way you want to go with it, another entity is putting dreams into the Targaryens. That's possible. If you want to even connect it to Aegon's dream of the Targaryens need to be on the throne and specifically need to have dragons, that would also make sense if you look at maybe Bloodraven finding out that prophecy. So if you just take a look at all these different Targaryens that seem to have some of the similar symptoms, and this really occurs after the dragons are gone. This is specifically when that starts to happen, right? Like Maegor the Cruel, he was somebody that after his mother dies specifically goes off the deep end, and he starts making some really bad actions, but I don't think that has anything to do with like dragon dreams or anything like that, right? And so I look at this, and this is mainly a predominant issue after the Targaryens lose the dragons. And that's when we start to see kind of this more of this madness, this craziness that's in the Targaryens, because what wasn't necessarily a thing during the early reign of the Targaryens, right? Aenys was not a bad king because he was cruel or anything like that. He just was ineffective. Maegor was not a great ruler because he was kind of, always prompting for war, and he did some very violent things towards the end of his reign after his mother died. That doesn't really have to do anything with like madness or the dragon dreams. You look at what comes after. Jaehaerys doesn't seem to have any of those symptoms. Viserys doesn't either. And then after that, you have like Aegon and Rhaenyra. Again, doesn't seem to come up there. Rhaenyra just seems cruel, and she goes through a lot of issues. Same with like Aegon. And then after that is where things start to like actually get interesting in terms of this theory. So I would love to hear you guys' thoughts, because there isn't a ton to back this up, because we're just not in any Targaryens' heads outside of Daenerys. And so you can point to dreams that Daenerys has throughout the book. But again, that could be just tied to just Daenerys, because she is the one that brings back the dragons. And so she just seems more of a magical element or character, whereas other characters we just don't know. We can kind of speculate as to what happened with those characters, but who knows? Stream thought I should make this into a video, and so I followed their advice, and I hope you guys all enjoyed it. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on like, why do you think so many Targaryens go mad or crazy or whatever? And I didn't even talk about some of the other stuff. Like I tried to, like when I mentioned specific people, bring up other surrounding factors that would have built onto the reason that they might have trusted these dragon dreams or become self-obsessed with them. But another part of it could just be incest, right? The incest and how that affects genetics and all these things as you go down the line. Also didn't talk about like parenting, how that can affect a child, all those things. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye, guys.